Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there and welcome once again to the WP Builds podcast. This is episode number 256, entitled Kickstart Your Website Copy with Copyflight. It was published on Thursday, the 25th of November, 2021. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and some very short housekeeping just before we begin the podcast interview. It is, as I'm sure you're aware, Black Friday. It's coming up incredibly soon, and we have gone out of our way to make WordPress deals easier to find than ever. We've got well over 200 on our Black Friday page. You're going to find that by going to wpbuilds.com/black. That's wpbuilds.com/black. And once you get there, click the yellow search and filter button. A little menu will sweep in from the left, and it will enable you to filter things by price and by category, and you can search for them as well. If you've got a particular product in mind, you can search for it and hopefully it'll pop up. There are some affiliate links in there, and we very much appreciate the little revenue that we generate from that. It enables us to keep the lights on the podcast, and I really appreciate anybody who uses that page for their links this year, and feel free to share it to spread the joy. It does make it a lot easier to find. So once more, wpbuilds.com/black. Okay, this week on the podcast we have an interview episode. It's with Todd E. Jones, and as I said, it's about kickstarting your website copy with Copyflight. Well, Copyflight is the kind of resource that you're going to need if you are stuck. You don't know what to put on your website. Todd has gone out of his way making it easier. He enables you to craft your content and gives you tips and advice and a framework, basically, to put content on the website in the best possible way. If you're anything like me, a blank page is your absolute nemesis, and having some guidance and pointers from somebody who's been round this topic for many, many years is really, really helpful. I hope that you enjoy the podcast. I am with Todd Jones. How are you doing today, Todd?
Not too bad. I had a good conversation with you before we ever started.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. This is often the case, actually. When people record podcasts, you have this sort of like fake introduction, don't you, where you say, "Hello, Todd, how are you?" And Todd replies. And actually what's gone on in the background is probably about a 50-minute conversation about this, that, and the other beforehand. I think it's quite nice, but I suppose for the purposes of the audience, it's nice to introduce you. Saying that, do you want to just spend a moment or two introducing yourself? Perhaps tell us a little bit about how you've come to be on the podcast today, what your relationship is with WordPress, perhaps where you are and things like that.
I live in Conway, Arkansas. I claim to fame would be Scottie Pippen of the Chicago Bulls, who went to college at University of Central Arkansas here, and Chris Allen, who I think is the year 6 winner of the American Idol. So that's where I live. I've lived here since 2010. And so WordPress. I started using WordPress back in 07, 08, somewhere in that neighborhood. Actually was on podcast with Joe Howard a few weeks ago and talking a little bit about that. I was running a college football and football blog, and that's when I started using WordPress and realized I could set these sites up for people, and I sold a few here and there. Got into the development game, but realized after a while that I'm really more of a content person, and went down that. I still build sites, but I don't actively go out and find people to build sites for. But anyway, I kind of felt like the content side was more my game, and I've been kind of pursuing that ever since, including the copywriting and those kinds of things.
When you say content, do you mean basically, are we talking text, or are you into sort of other things like video creation and image creation and things as well?
It's a very good question, because I've been thinking I need to do a copy chat show about content versus copy, whatnot. When I'm referring to content, I'm really referring more to the text side of things. That being said, yes, I've gotten into podcasting a little bit recently, and some video. I do think it's all part of content. Actually, there's a guy on Twitter I follow named Ross Simmons, the coolest cool, I think is his Twitter handle, and he's at the top of a company called Foundation Inc., and they're kind of a content marketing company. And he talks about remixing and redistribution content. It's basically repurposing. So I really what the way I really see content is, at your article. This is not always the case, but your article kind of serves as the base, and then you remix. That means you can make little videos, little audio sessions, whatever, kind of repurpose it, and then use those in other channels to kind of bring back to your site. I don't know. That's kind of how I see content. I do see content holistically, but for me, I guess when I started going down the content route, it was more writing articles and then writing web pages and that kind of thing.
Yeah. It feels to me like if you're the age that you and I both are, Todd, we let's not go into that, but the age that we are, then that is what the internet was. And I grew up with the internet, if you like. Well, I was already an adult by the time the internet came along, but when the internet came along, it was largely a thing for text, and I would read things and I would go and Google things and read articles about things. But it does kind of occur to me that my children, their experience of the internet is really different. They are consuming a lot more video than I do. It's just that's the default. They're sharing social media stuff, they're watching videos, YouTube channels have replaced television channels, and audio, things like podcasts and music and so on is all a big part of it. So I think you're right to
and
make that comparison.
I don't know about you, Nathan, but I relived my childhood a little bit, my teens with videos on YouTube of music that I listened to in the
Yep.
80s, watching those videos that I used to watch on MTV or VH1 or whatever back in the day. I kind of relived my youth a little bit doing that. So I have YouTube on a whole lot, which is really weird because I pay for the Spotify. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I really need to transfer some because YouTube has this AI which like takes you down. Oh, you listen to this, you probably like this. I'm like, oh, I forgot about that song. I really like that song back in 1987. Need to add that to my Spotify list.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But your main focus, what you're doing today on the podcast, is more to do with written content, because we're talking about something called the website copy framework. Forgive me if I get this URL wrong. I think this is probably the best URL for it. If you go to Todd's website, which is copyflight.com, and then /WCF, website copy
Yeah,
framework. That's the
the
one.
main landing page.
Yeah, perfect. Then you'll be able to see what it's about. So if you're near a computer, you might just want to pause the recording for a moment, go over to that copyflight.com /WCF. Before we get into the actual copy framework itself, I'm curious to know how it is that you ended up deciding that this needed to be built. Was there like a pressing need that occurred to you in the work that you were doing around making websites? Did somebody come up to you and suggest that this was a good idea, or did it just sort of pop into your head? And how did the whole evolution of it occur?
I don't know if it was 2018 or 19, and Lee Jackson had his one. He has that. He's done it a couple times. The I don't know if you call it Summit Agency Summit or
Agency
whatever.
Trailblazer, I think.
Yeah, Agency Trailblazer Summit. And so I created a checklist or something. I don't remember what I checked. Created something as a giveaway for something that, anyway, Lee was nice and allowed me to do that. And some people downloaded it. And I don't know if it was the whole thing, probably not everything you get in the website copy framework, but a fraction of it, some stuff that, I thought would be helpful. And I get a message from Paul Lacey. He goes, "Man, this is really good. You should be charging for this." I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, I use this and I charge a consultancy fee to take a client through it to help them write their copy." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so what I had done is basically create this for myself originally. Um, Went down the whole copywriting um, rabbit hole probably in 16, 17. Spent a lot of time in the copy hackers community. Joanna Weeb, if you're familiar with copy hackers, and just and some of her disciples. That's what I call them, disciples. But people connected to her, and just learn a ton about writing home pages, about pages, and about. I'm still not very good at either of those, but I learned a lot about maybe best practices, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I did a few um, copywriting projects for some people, and I basically created this as a process for myself. And so basically, after what Paul said, it's like, okay. So I kind of, with the encouragement of my tribe, people like Devender and Rob Cairns and Ryan Waterbury and even more Cohen, who did a lot of design for me for this. Like I went ahead and kind of put this together in a little more cohesive package and uploaded it to Gumroad and sold a few. The original one was just plain, this is how, download this, a bunch of check sheets, um, check worksheets, checklist kind of thing. And then I said, well, if consultants use this, maybe they would like to like put their own logo on it and use it over and over for consulting. So I did a white label version, which is basically all the worksheets are in a Google document, so you can download it and customize it how you want, put your logo on it and whatnot. So that's really kind of, I know we were talking before the break, and I knew I'd lose my train of thought. I should have wrote it down, but I mean, web writing is a different just than doing like writing a blog
Yeah,
post,
yeah, it is.
and so there's a lot of things I learned um, from hanging around the copy hackers community about certain things. Like, for instance, and I don't know if this applies in every situation, but it's a good rule of thumb. At the top of the homepage, the top of the about page, the top of any page, you should have a unique value proposition, at least to some extent. And that's a whole nother thing going down the road of unique value propositions. That can be complex and so forth. But that's what Joanna talks about it. And if you go to CXL, Pete Laha, he'll talk about that, having a unique value proposition. Basically what I say is, there's two things I would say you should have at the top of your homepage. And one is be very clear about who you are and what you do. Always default to that. People tend to get clever with their homepage and you don't understand what they mean. It's almost like insider information. So if your visitor comes and like they don't know what you're talking about, I see that a lot with agencies websites. They get real clever with that first line,
Yeah,
and it's like,
yeah,
don't know what you're doing here. Really don't know what you're doing. So be very clear about who you are and what you do, and if you can, your number one desired outcome um, that you offer. So that is another way of saying unique value proposition or a benefit. But I like the word desired outcome. I got that um, phrase from Talia Wolf, who's a conversion rate optimizer. I call her the CRO queen. But I like that term, desired outcome, because it really kind of is like, okay, yeah, this is the desired outcome. Is the desired outcome that you're actually building a website, or is the desired outcome you're building a platform that will bring customers in and drive revenue and sales?
yeah.
Think about, but what is that number one benefit? So on your homepage, that's what you should be looking at the top. But I always say default to being really, really clear instead of being clever.
Yeah. So is the premise of the website copy framework, is it kind of to give guidance? Okay, let me rewind that a little bit. I'm looking at a blank page. One of my jobs as the person building the website is to fill some copy. Now it may be that the client are going to then fill that lorem up, but quite often they'll come to you and say, can you just fill it up. And you kind of got the writer's block. You don't know what to do. You've got this blank sheet staring at you, and you don't know what to put in. You don't know the right language to use. You don't know how to be impactful with the language that you're using, or to use the right tone and to be as brief as possible but as powerful as possible. Is it kind of is the idea behind the website copy framework to assist me with the sort of writer's block and get me on the right lines, or is it more of a copy paste this and swap out the name of the company, your company, for the company, the placeholder in here?
Yeah, I don't think you can really do copy paste too well, and and the website copy framework is not really a copy paste. It's more of helping you create the building blocks you need to assemble your Lego building, right? And I think Eugene Schwartz is supposed to have said copy is assembled or something like that. It's not written, it's assembled. So much truth in that statement. Um, so I think it's hard. I kind of cringe at copy templates a little bit
Mm.
because no business is the same, no audience is the same. Um, this one reason I actually did a copy chat show, and this is like when you see someone steal else's content, which happens in the WordPress community. I've seen more than one person like, hey, they stole my everything. Like, well, joke's on them because your target audience is not theirs, right? I mean, it didn't make anybody feel better. I know that. It makes you mad when that happens, but there's no creativity in that. There's no research in that. So, website copy framework, I do liken it. I think most everybody's familiar with Legos, right? You ever build a Lego structure? You have to have all these blocks. So, website copy framework is more like that. It's like, okay, what is your unique value proposition? Let's go through that. How are some ways you can write the unique value proposition? Well, here are some formulas you can use to write your unique value proposition. Is this good for your home or about pages? Maybe. Um, what are the benefits that you have? Well, you probably know what the features of what you do are. Let's start there. What are the benefits? A lot of sites I see on the homepage, they do not mention their benefits. I see it a lot with agencies. They list all these things. This multi-grid thing of all these different features. What does that mean? I come to you, I don't know anything about your world, but I do know about my world. What does it mean why does it matter that my website is blazing fast? Who cares? What does that mean? Well, work that out for them. Give them the benefit. We know that one, the user don't want to wait 5 seconds for something to load. That's the first thing, right? And we know, a little insider information, I guess, we know that Google likes faster websites. So it definitely will help with your relationship with Google, I guess. That's People will say it ranks higher. There's a lot of variables that go in with a website ranking higher, but speed is one of them. We know that. So, when you start thinking about the features that people list on your site, and that's a web agency, but think about that for any business. Like I use chiropractor as an example in the website copy framework because I have a chiropractor. It kind of keeps me going. 1998, I had more than one surgery, but one of them was for a fused disc in my neck.
Oh,
So I have to go to the chiropractor to keep that flexibility above and below the fused disc. There's other reasons too, but that's one of the big reasons right there. Um, but I use the example of the chiropractor. Think about the weekend warrior, our friend Cameron Jones down in I think Australia. Is that
yeah,
where
that's
Cameron's
right. Yeah.
from? He's a footballer, and Australian rules, not American or UK. He's a footballer, so he's got some cool pictures of him jumping. He jumps really high, by the way, but he's a weekend warrior, right? I don't know if he gets paid to do that, but how does he keep that? If he has a back problem after one of those matches, you go to the chiropractor gets you worked out, and he can play the next weekend. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So the benefit of the chiropractor is not cracking bones or whatever. It's to make sure that you can still do what you love on the weekend. In Arkansas, there's a lot of hunting and fishing. Um, Obviously, we have other things that people like to do. We have soccer players here too, by the way. We have a minor league soccer team in Little Rock. I was telling you before we got on. So here I'm going to get my wrestling connection into this podcast. I was watching the AEW last night. The women's champion for the AEW is a dentist. So I kid you not, and she uses it in her persona. Her name is Britt Baker, DMD. I mean, they do it like that and everything. DMD. So by day, she's fixing teeth. At night, she's breaking jaws. Like my dentist can beat up your dentist. But anyway, but for her to keep wrestling, I'm sure she has to do. She may have to go to a chiropractor. I have no idea, but many of us, especially as long as we're able to, have something we like to do on the weekend, right? Chiropractor keeps us going. I mean, I'm just using that as an example, but it's making sure you get the benefits on that homepage. I'm not saying don't put features on there. I'm just saying, don't lead with features, but definitely lead with benefits. So that's one example. But the framework and the worksheet will help you go through that, figuring out what your benefits are.
So is it kind of like a page by page template? Watching your video, you've obviously got a lot of materials in there. I think you say it runs to sort of like 100 pages and 13 something thousand words. Is that the idea then? You're sort of dissecting the business bit by bit, trying to eke out what a typical sales type website would need on it in order to be successful, and getting out of the people who are reading the website copy framework how they might go about this and the pitfalls to avoid.
Yeah, so you're gonna go through the worksheets to figure out things like, what is my unique value proposition? What are the benefits that I offer? And then I do have, for lack of a better term, I might call it a formula or a template. I don't like to use the word template, so I like framework actually better for the home and the about page, and even for the service or product page, depending on what what your main thing is. So, and each of those will have elements that you need to have, and like benefits and value proposition are two things that you'll have a worksheet for to help you walk through that, and then you'll begin to assemble those on each page. So yeah, and that actually, here's the thing, Nathan. Over the last few years and what I've done, I recommend you start with the about page first.
Everybody's got one.
Yeah, well, so I have this conversation with Bob Dunn a lot because there are some people in the WordPress community who do not have one. But the thing is, everything you need for the other pages you will come up with for the about page. And if you already a little squeamish about writing it to begin with, get it out of the way. Get it out of the way first. But I recommend starting with the about page first. But there's also a worksheet for helping you define your story, and which is crucial for the about page. So so the worksheets will help you create the building blocks that you need to write these pages. And I used to remember Joanna Weeb saying, writer's block is just, how does she put it? I quoted in the framework in the little intro. Writer's block is just lack of research or something like that. And basically what she's saying is not, you need to, the reason you have writer's block is because you don't know what you need to write. And that's what the website copy framework helps with.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually, because just knowing what it is that works best if it goes in this spot, I think is often the writer's block problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I'll do a lot of times is I'll just open a new Google Doc and I'll put all those elements in there as headers, whatever. Then I'll start working on each section. Like, okay, here's the hero section. What do I put there? Okay, here's my value proposition. Here's my call to action. That kind of thing. So
what sort of sections is it divided up into on the YouTube video that you've got on the as the demo? on the web page, you can clearly see it's divided up into. It looks to be about 10 different sections. Can you just sort of highlight to us what those different aspects are that you deal with in each of your sections?
So there's a main, I guess the only thing I know to do is to call it an ebook. More help me with that. But it's like the home, about, and the service page framework, um, and a little bit of instructions about each one. Um, so let's see, you'll have a getting started, which is, you remember when we used to download software back in the day, and there would always be this read me.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of how I determine. I call it the read me first. It's PDF, so those are PDF, and it kind of gives you some preface instructions and those kinds of things. And I numbered them. Actually, got the idea from Carrie Deals. She said, "Hey, I would recommend." I let her see it, and she said, "I would recommend numbering them like in the order that they should go." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's a good idea." So you have the read me first, and then the first one is a value proposition worksheet. The second one is the benefits worksheet. So those are two, one is helps you figure out what that value proposition is. The second one is help you figure out the benefits. The third one is the home page copy framework, which is a little, I mean, they're all PDFs, so you can call it a little ebook. And
Yep.
it's basically, I had written an article on the blog, and I basically put it all in one place for you. So I'm not telling you to go back and read it on the blog. There it is in a PDF form. I use Designer. Remember that software? I think I got it as a deal off of AppSumo.
Oh.
And yeah, I was able to do everything but the one that Moore did. I was able to use the Designer for that. So I thought that was cool. You've got the website copy framework, or the homepage copy framework is number 3, which kind of tells you like what each section and kind of breaks it down. And then the fourth one is actually the blog post that I repurposed as an ebook for the website copy framework. 5 is the company story worksheet. So I designed that a long time ago and may update it. Probably will update it in the next year. But it helps you kind of work through things that stories about, the story of your company. I've got so much more I can do with that. I need to update that. But anyway, then I have this kind of fundamentals of crafting a story. I think that is taken from a blog as well. That's number 6. Number 7 is the about page framework. See, if I redid this, I would tell you to do that first. It needs to be updated. But that's like, okay, this is what the about page framework is. It kind of breaks down each section, and then number 8 is the ebook based on the article that I wrote about pages.
So each of them is sort of atomic. It stands by itself, and you can have a look at them. But you'd probably recommend everybody have a go at the About Us one first now.
Yeah, I think if I did it now, I would say, I mean, it's just once you go through that process, you know, it will then feed into the homepage. If you do the homepage first, you still have stuff to do for the about page. So I mean, you can. I did it in an order which made sense at the time. I would just. I need to. I haven't had the opportunity. I need to make some updates to it. But anybody who buys it, if I do an update, the update will automatically be uploaded, and you'll get that when it comes out.
So who ideally would you say is your target audience? Is this something that you would? You mentioned Paul Lacey saying this would be great as a kind of white label deal or something. Is that like a really good use of it? You kind of sell it on, if you like. You've just built a website, you're happy with it, but there's obviously virtually no content. It looks fine, but the content's nonsense. It's at best placeholder text. Would you be passing this document on to people, or is it something that you as a website professional are better off trying to sell as a service so that you can put the copy in and make yourself the professional there? Do both work? Is there one that you prefer?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. The first way that Paul used it was he charged a consultancy fee because he had a client. It's like, I really don't know what to write. Okay. And he went through all of this with them before it was ever sold, you know, and he charged a pretty good fee to help them. I mean, it's a really a I think it's great for consultants. I had somebody to buy it to use in her course. Um, I have mostly everybody's been a consultant, like a web consultant. Either they build websites for people or they run an agency or whatever. I assume that most of them. No, I think about what Jason Vance said to me. I don't know if you know Jason, but he said he gave it to the client, and he said they went from I don't know what to say to, oh, now I can do this.
Yeah.
I mean, just because it kind of gives you a bit of a blueprint. I think a consultant can use it to help their client who doesn't know what to write on the page, right? And I would charge for it. So, I mean, don't do it for free unless you roll it into your overall cost, which is fine. I know some agencies will automatically include content in the process and they charge for it. So, you're still going to need this information. If you're going to do the content yourself, the copy yourself, because I mean, I've talked to people that say, I don't do projects anymore unless I do the copy. Okay. You still got to you still got to get this information. I mean, this is not groundbreaking stuff, right? I mean, I'm not telling you anything secret. If you studied all copywriting, you'd probably come up with something very similar. In fact, Nathan, a conversion copywriter friend of mine bought the white label herself to use. So that tells you something right there. She tweaked it a little bit for her own purposes, but I mean, that tells you that it's not groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to need this information to do these sections on these pages.
And I think
So if you do the copy yourself as an agency, which I can definitely see why, right? It's hard to get that content from people because they don't know what to say. So maybe you've got a writer on staff or you contract with a writer. I know a number of agencies do that. Just walk them through the website copy framework and get that information using the worksheets, and then you can write it. That's one way to use it. The other way, of course, is more as a consulting session. Like, I don't know what to write. Well, let's talk about it. I've got this thing here. I got this product, and let's fire up Zoom and go through it. And you can do that. So I did hope to someday that would be something for average business owners. They severely underestimate what they have to do with content, and because all these platforms, we're in the WordPress space, but we all know there's stuff outside of WordPress, right?
Yep.
They all advertise how easy it is to set up a website. Sure, it's easy to set up a website. You go in, you choose a template, and you hit, install, and you got a website. But it's a shell. You and I know it's a shell. What are you going to say in there? That part is the hard. That's a sticking point for a regular everyday business. So that's a way to help an everyday business. So I was hoping one day that it would be something for the average person. You may have a client that they come to you, they can't afford you, and so they're going to use WordPress.com or Squarespace or Webflow or something. Great, you send them with your blessing. Come back when you have a budget and you want us to do more. Oh, but if you're having trouble with copy, I recommend this product that can help you out.
Yeah, I think a lot of these ideas, they don't have to be ingenious to be worthwhile. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking stuff, but the fact that you've packaged it all up into one handy thing that you can hold in your hand or download as a PDF and read it on your screen, and you've just taken the trouble to do it, there's value in that. And honestly, writing text as a blog post, because you know what the blog post is pretty straightforward, because you've obviously sat down to write a blog post, or at least it typically is for me. I only write things that I've either covered or something something that I'm interested in writing, so I kind of know what I want to go at. But writing copy for a website is really hard because the language has got to be right. If you're in a particular industry, you've got to use all the vernacular of that industry and get everything correct. And I do find that really, really difficult. And so, as you said, maybe individually each of these components is nothing groundbreaking, and you didn't maybe make a ton of it up originally. You've taken ideas and coalesced them. That doesn't stop it being valuable. And the fact that it's all in one handy place is great, really, really great. I noticed on your website, you've kind of got it in two flavors. You've got the business owner's flavor and you've got the consultant's flavor. What's the difference there?
Well, one is and I think I say website copy framework for agencies. That's the white label.
Yep.
So it's a little more expensive, and so you buy that. You get the worksheets that you can brand yourself and that kind of thing. And the other one would be more for your everyday business. But that doesn't mean a consultant can't buy it and use it. I mean, I have had some that buy the plain one and use it, which you can do, especially if you're doing like consulting sessions. But if you want to put like, what is Paul's Dickie
Bird Studio?
Dickie Bird. Okay, so if you want to put Dickie Bird Studio and logo on there, then you buy the white label and you can reuse it that way.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So you can distribute it to all of your clients and kind of make out like it's something that you created in the first place.
Yeah. And I have other ideas in the back of my mind I haven't been able to execute in the last year. I have thought about doing some training videos, which I think I could just add to the Gumroad, which is kind of cool. I have another friend who's done something similar, and he's added some videos. And so I'm like, okay, I could do that too. And then I also have thought about, because so many of our friends are getting to the WAS, WAAS.
Oh yeah, it's a big thing.
So ideally, if I could, blink or snap my hands, you'd have some kind of a SaaS where people can log in, get all this information done, and then download it or whatever, and then from there create their content. That might be one idea as well. So it would be cool to because I know at least two people who are doing going to do SAT. Well, one has already started, and the other one is on the brink of starting their own WAS, website as a service for a particular niche. The thing about those though is you have to be careful. I think the framework is good because it gives you the flexibility for any niche, right? But it's not really a copy and paste thing. So you should be able to use it with a service industry or whatever. But you do have to pay attention. Each niche, that's hard to say, is a little bit unique. So, but it's definitely a building block, a framework for writing that out. And so it would be kind of cool if I could do some kind of a SaaS, at least to go in there, and you got video and then here's the updated worksheet, and you fill the worksheet out and you submit it, and it gathers all that information, and you just at the end you download it. And there's a term. This is the light version of this. Key messaging copy framework, I think is what people call it, something different, but I tend to call it a messaging compass. And basically what you're doing with website copy framework is creating your messaging compass, which, when you think about it, it's going to help you write messaging for your website, but you can also use it on your social media channels, some of this on your social media channels as well. But key message copy framework, a copywriter did that, and it's a document you download, and it has all this information. It's great when you have a team setting, right? You're like, well, what are our benefits? Well, go to the key message copy framework. Well, the result of the website copy framework, in my opinion, is you can create that document as a messaging compass. I actually did a training with iThemes earlier this year, and that's what I called it, a messaging compass. Because in my mind, when you do this, you have the tip of the arrow for the compass pointing north. You've got that. There's a lot more you can add to it, but you definitely have the tip of the arrow for the compass pointing north.
The framework is available, like we said, at copyflight.com. But if anybody's interested and they want to contact you, what would be the best way of getting in touch with you personally, Todd?
Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, as far as social media goes. T.E. Jones is my Twitter, Redneck Coffee Stop. Yes, that's what I call it. Copyflight.com. The main email I use is the copyflightco@gmail.com. Or you can just do Todd at copyflight.com. It just redirects to that. So, and if you already know me, feel free to just ping me on Facebook. I usually reply to that pretty quickly.
If you're in the need of copywriting assistance and you want to help your clients with that, as well as perhaps help yourself, go check it out one more time, copyflight.com/WCF, standing for Website Copy Framework. Is there anything you think we missed before we wrap it up?
Goodness. You did a very thorough job.
It wasn't me. It was all you. Well, if that's the case, if there's nothing else to be said, we'll knock it on the head there. And I'll just say, Todd, thanks for talking to us on the podcast today.
It was a blast. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed the podcast today. Very nice to have Todd E. Jones on, talking all about Copyflight and ways in which his expertise can help you if you've got problems writing your copy. As we said, go to copyflight.com and you'll be able to see all of the great things that he's got on offer there. One last reminder, if you're in a miasma about Black Friday deals in the WordPress space, we have a solution for you. wpbuilds.com/black, a searchable and filterable list of well over 200 WordPress products. If you're in the market for something this week and you're looking to buy something, the chances are if it's WordPress related, it'll be on that page. Go there and use the yellow button to search and filter. And as I said at the top of the show, if you do use those links, you may very well reward us with a coffee. Thank you very much to anybody that does it. wpbuilds.com/black. I will be back next week chatting to David Wormsley. It will be a discussion episode, and so we would really appreciate it if you come back. Podcasts every Thursday, 1 p.m. UK time, and the This Week in WordPress show, which is on every Monday, 2 p.m. UK time, wpbuilds.com/live. If you fancy subscribing, hit our subscribe link at the top of the website. But for now, I'm going to fade in some cheesy music and say bye-bye for now.